I hope you had an awesome week last week. I had a great week. I put 3 homes under contract and I shot a deer. So I'm going to call that a successful day or a week in my book. But today's video, I want to answer a question that a lot of sellers ask me all the time. They say, Chris, when is the best time to sell my house? And oftentimes when you ask a real estate agent, what's the answer you get? They say, oh, the best time to sell is when you're ready. Okay, I'm making fun of folks here, but I'll be honest, that is a good answer because it really is. The best time to sell is when you're ready. But actually, let's look at the data here and let me try to give you some guidance and walk you through when I genuinely believe the best time to put your house on the market is. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you 2 specific dates that I believe are going to be the best dates in 2026 to list your house. So let's start out with January and February. This is going to be the slowest stretch of the year. You're going to get, some retiree folks that buy, and I would say older folks. And a lot of times you see this in investors want to try to buy a home the beginning of the year. So when they close on it, because they're pulling money out of some sort of asset or investment or something of that nature, they're going to adjust their income throughout the year so they don't get hit with different tax brackets. You also get a push of first-time home buyers. But first-time home buyers are kind of interesting because they're not tied down to the constraints of trying to sell a home and all the parts of like buying and selling and all that. So they have a tendency to just buy when they find something that they like. Now, March and April, now this is going to be the sweet spot of the year. Now, remember this because when you list a home in March and April, that home's often going to close around June. And I want to show you some interesting data on this. But the sweet spot is going to be March and April and a little bit the end of February. And the reason for this is you're going to have more buyers on the market. You're not going to have as many sellers on the market because they haven't hit that quote selling season yet. And there's less competition out there for a seller, meaning there's less option for buyers, giving you the ability of a seller to potentially get a little bit more money for your house. So this is going to be the greatest window throughout the whole year. Now, as we move into May and June, inventory starts to climb as school lets out and people start going on vacations because a lot of folks want to try to time getting their home on the market when they go out of town for a vacation. So with more listings, there are going to be more buyers, but there's more homes for those buyers to look at, so it's more competition for sellers. Now, take a look at this data right here. Now, let's take a look at 2015 to 2019. And for the sake of this video, we're going to cut out from 2020 to 2022 because the market was just bananas. But you can see here in June, from 2015 to 19, June gave us the highest overall value. And one could argue that in North Texas, average days on market is going to fall around that 30 to 45 days. So those would have been homes that were listed in, let's say, March, April, maybe the very beginning of May. Now, I want to show you a trend at the end of this video where I'm actually starting to see this window move up a little bit, and I'll explain why here in a minute. Now, as we move into July, we can see this is going to be the peak selling season. All the activity, you're going to have the most sellers, the most buyers, all of it's going on. But because of that, buyers have more options. And that's what I see in the data as well, that the homes that closed 30 to 45 days later actually sold for a little bit less. And this is just something I've noticed over the years as well. There's just more options out there for the buyers, so they're able to get the home for a little bit less. Now, August, you're going to get another push as families rush to get under contract so they can get their kids enrolled in school. Even if they're not closed on the home, if they're contracted with the property, they can use that contract to enroll their kids in school. So I do see more buyers start to settle for a property as we move closer to the school season starting. Now, September and October is kind of an interesting time. You get a little spillover from those people that were trying to contract in August that maybe haven't closed yet. But activity does drop and many sellers pull their homes off the market in September and October. And in fact, this is the largest time for the most amount of expired and canceled listings as well. And it's just because sellers don't want to mess with showings during the holidays. I mean, that's really what it is. But that's kind of interesting because as we move into November and December, we can actually see the start of the second best time to sell your home. And it's kind of ironic that this is the second best window of the year next to March and April because inventory's dropped. And you could argue that a seller that's selling at that time has to sell, but it's not always the case, and similarly to a buyer. But you do have situations, and I've noticed you get more forced buyers this time of the year. And a lot of times that's somebody who's maybe sold a home and now they're, they don't have a house, or they're relocating or something of that nature. And due to lack of inventory, that does push the values up a little bit overall. And that's supported in the data here, because take a look at this. When you look at 2015 to 2019, we can see once again that in December, that gave us, for most part, our second highest values. Now, I talked about something interesting. We're going to look ahead and we're going to talk about 2026, but to look ahead, I want to take a little glance back and take a look at the data here. Now, in 2023, we started to see the trend change a little bit. Now, remember what happened in 2022? In October of 2022, the interest rates jumped substantially and it really stalled the market out. So we didn't quite see this trend come to fruition in 2023, but I saw it in 24 and 25. And remember, before I'm hitting puberty apparently, before June gave us our highest overall values, but here we can see that May gave us a little bit higher values, and even you can argue up into April as well. And I've noticed over the years that more people, more sellers want to get ahead of that sweet spot, if you will. They really want to be like those first listings in that sweet spot. So I'm getting more sellers that actually want to sell like, you know, February 15th, February 20th, right around that time, right? They want to get just a little bit before that time so they can be on the market where there's less competition. Now, there's a lot we need to look at in 2026. We've got portable mortgages potentially coming into effect. Heaven forbid, 50-year loan options come into effect. And with this, it's going to get more buyers in the market. And as more buyers step in the market, it's going to push values up. There's something else we need to take into consideration as we move into 2026 is quantitative tightening just ended December 1st of this year. Now, they haven't officially started quantitative easing yet, and essentially what that is, they're printing money. I'm not going to go into all the detail of that, but depending on when they start to implement that in 2026, that's going to push inflation up, and as inflation goes up, your home value will go up simultaneously. So that's going to have some interesting effects on when they start to implement quantitative easing, what they do with the interest rates, and what kind of mortgage options are actually available as we move into the new year. But I would say as of right now, if you want a specific date for 2026, the best time to list your house is going to be March 25th or November 18th. We'll see how that goes, but time will tell. I hope you enjoyed this video though, and I hope it brought some value. And if you know of somebody that's thinking about selling and they're curious about when the best time to sell in 2026 is, maybe you could be a good friend to them and share this video.